Good evening, Torah Anytime listeners. A good week, a good Erev Purim, and this week of Tetzaveh we have a tremendous schedule. This week, 4 major things are happening in this week of Tetzaveh. Number 1 is, on Thursday, is Tanis Esther, the fast day of Esther. And you know, when the Jews fasted, it was not Erev Purim. It was 11 months before. It was Erev Pesach, and first day Pesach and second day Pesach. That's when all Jews and animals fasted for 3 days. Even though the Torah says on Pesach you have to eat matzah, Esther said, do not listen to the Torah. You will not listen to it. You will not eat matzah on this year, the year of Purim, which was right before the building of the second Beis Hamikdash, at the end of the 70 years of Golus Bavel, the Babylonian Golus. The Torah says, Be'erev tochlu matzos, and the night of the 14th, going into the 15th, you have to eat matzahs, and Esther says, no. How can you do a thing like that? A tzaddik could be goes there against the Torah, could nullify a positive mitzvah of the Torah. In fact, the tzaddik and the navi can even go against the negative mitzvah of the Torah. For example, you're not allowed to bring karbanos outside of the central headquarters, Beis Hamikdash, or when the temple of Shiloh was in existence for 369 years. Eliyahu Navi brought karbanos away from Shiloh, which would normally be an Isser D'Oraisa. He told everybody to go to Tel Aviv. So it wasn't called that then. It was called Har HaKarmel, the Mount Carmel, which for today is in Tel Aviv. And there he brought karbanos to Hashem, even though there was Shiloh existing. And there, after he had a showdown with 850 Nevi'ei Sheker, false rabbis, that's what it means. 400 Nevi'ei Baal and 450 Nevi'ei Sheker, rabbis who created a new religion, false religion of Avodah Zarah, and they had a showdown in the days of the wicked king Achav and his wife Izebel, and the days of Avadio and Eliyahu Navi, and he said, let's have a showdown at Har HaKarmel, which is today, near the Haifa, not Tel Aviv, Haifa, yeah. He had a showdown, and then he said, you're the majority, you pray to Baal, and I'm the minority. We, the religious, the ultra-Orthodox, the right-wing, black hats, we're the minority. So we'll pray to Hashem, we'll see who answers, and then they prayed all day, nothing happened, and Eliyahu Navi came, and he prayed to Hashem, and the fire came down from heaven, and ate up his carbon, did not eat up their carbon, and then Eliyahu Navi told his men to take the 850 people and do a favor to them, kill them, and therefore he did the biggest favor he could. After they said Hashem Hu Elokim twice, he killed them so they should die a Misa Meshuna and do as a kapara for Avodah Zarah and go to Gan Eden. Anyhow, that was where one person, a Navi Eliyahu, nullified a negative mitzvah not to bring a carbon outside of Shiloh, and Esther nullified a positive one to not eat matzah on that night of Pesach, Be'erev Tovchu Matzah, the night of the 15th going into the 14th going into the 15th. So Tzom Olai, fast on me, 3 days, the 14th, the 15th, the 16th of Nisan. So we fast in Adar because that's when that Nes happened, the war. Haman was hung on the second night of Pesach, but his children were hung 11 months later. Anyhow, we have this week coming up Thursday. That's Tanis Esther, one of the 6 Tanasim. You know the 6 Tanasim. Black, white, man, woman, long, short. That's the 6 Tanasim. 6 Tanis that we have. Black, white, man, woman, long, short. Black is Tisha B'Av, sad day, and white is Yom Kippur. Everything is white. And man is Tzom Gedalia. That's his name, Gedalia. He was executed on Rosh Hashanah by some fanatic right-wing Meshugoyim who didn't follow Das Torah, and therefore we always fast the day after Rosh Hashanah, Tzom Gedalia. Then came Tanis Esther, that's the woman, which is the day before Purim, but this year, the day before Purim, you can't fast because it's Shabbos, and you can't even fast Friday because that would disturb the Shabbos. So you have to have Tanis Esther Mukdam, early, Thursday, this week. and that's the man, black, white, man, woman. Long is the longest daytime fast. That's Shivas of Tammuz in the summer, and the shortest is Asar of Teves in the winter. The 10th day of Teves. So you have black, white, man, woman, long, short. Now, of all the Tanaisim, one of them is a Yontiv. Yom Kippur is a Yontiv, and the Shabbos and the Tanis all together. It's a Yontiv, because you say good Yontiv, but it's Shabbos. Even if it comes out the week, it's Shabbos, because you can't do anything that you can do in Yontiv. Can't cook. And it's a Tanis. Since when is a Tanis on a Shabbos? And when is the Shabbos a Yom Tov? When is Yom Tov a Shabbos? And when is the Yom Tov a Shabbos and the Tanis all together? That is Yom Kippur. So that's the only one of the 6 Tanasim which is the Oraisa. Then we have one Isser D'Rabbanan, that's Tisha B'Av, and Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur are the only 2 Tanis Siburs that you have of the 6 Tanasim. The other 4 are not Tanis Sibur because the Tanis Sibur has 2 main characteristics. It must be 24 hours. And that's only Tisha B'Av Yom Kippur. And you cannot wear shoes. So the other Tanaisim, besides Yom Kippur, which is our Yom Tov, the Raisa, has nothing to do with the Churban Beis HaMikdash. The other Tanaisim, one of them, besides Yom Kippur, one of them is 24 hours and you can't wear shoes. That's Tisha B'Av. The other Tanaisim are a Tanis Yochid that the Tzibur accepted. And if you go against what the Tzibur accepted, you're Chai Misa B'dei Shemayim. Ashkenazi who eats kitnios on Pesach is Chai Misa B'dei Shemayim. Not for the kitnios, but breaking a Minhag Yisrael. Because it's 700-800-year-old Minhag, and you're not allowed to break a Minhag, and nor Sfadi can break his Minhagim, and Ashkenaz cannot break his Minhagim, and a Tamani cannot break his Minhagim. Minhag Yisrael, Torah, that's a Torah. You break a minhag, it goes eventually, it's more and more you break, eventually you end up in Gehenna. Minhag, Gehenna, same word. Anyhow, so now that takes care of that. Now, Tanis Esther is it's a minhag. The other Yom Kippur is a Deraisa. Tisha B'Av is the Issa D'Rabbanan. The other 4, one of the other 4, Tanis Esther is not even such a severe thing. It's you could be make on Tanis Esther because if a person has a headache, an eye ache, a toothache, he can eat on a little bit on Tanis Esther. A woman's a little bit pregnant, has a little bit of discomfort, she can eat. Doesn't mean she can eat steaks. That means she can eat a little meal, coffee and cake or some cereal, whatever, bread to make her feel good. Because you see on all the other Tanis and the other 5 bad things happen. On Tanis Esther, nothing bad happened to us. Only happened to them. About 85,000 of them got killed by us. We did. No Jews got killed. And so therefore we're makel on Tanis Esther. So Tanis Esther is it's the weakest of all the Tanaisim. The other 4 are Tanis. The other 3 of the 4 is a Tanis Yochid that Sibur has accepted. And one of them, Tisha B'Av, is like Yom Kippur, 24 hours, and no shoes. So we have this week, Thursday, Tanis Esther. Now get ready, your 3 shekolim that you have to give before Mincha on Thursday, or during Mincha, or right after Mincha. Got to be before you read the Megillah. But you can't read the Megillah Thursday night or Friday night, and you can't do it mostly Shabbos because it's right after Shabbos and you have no money in your pocket. So you have to do it on Thursday. 3 chatzi shekels, because that's why we read 2 weeks ago, Pasha Shkolim, before the month of Adar starts, to get ready the Shkolim, because in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, everybody gave a chatzi shekel to be counted. That's your, be counted, and they use the chatzi shekel to buy the karbonos tomid for the whole year. Now there's no karbonos tomid, and why do you give 3? You should give 1. No, because Haman said that he was going to give Achashverosh all the money, and he'll take care of the cost of wiping out the Jews in 127 lands in one day. On the 14th of Adar. So he picked Adar because he said that's the month that Moshe died. Yeah, but he didn't know that's the month that Moshe was born. And Moshe, by the way, died and born same day, last week, Zion Adar. This week, Sunday, Zion Adar. Do you know that whenever you read the Parsha of Tetzaveh, Moshe's name is not mentioned in that parsha. The only parsha in the Torah, Moshe's name is not mentioned. And that is the same, when you read that, the same week as the week Moshe died. So Moshe is nistalek min ha'olam, disappeared on Zayin Adar, which happened to be last Sunday. And the week Moshe is nistalek, where he disappears, is also the week where you read the parsha, Moshe's name is not in it. There's a connection there. So you say, well, what do you mean the only parsha? His name is not in Bereshis. No, we know that. We're not talking about Sefer Bereshis or Sefer Devarim, which is a review of some part of the Torah. Devarim does not review the whole Torah. Devarim doesn't review Bereshis, about the Avos, about Karbanos. Zero in Devarim about Karbanos. Nothing about going out of Mitzrayim, nothing about building the Mishkan. Only about the 40 years in the Midbar after Matan Torah. So Moshe's name is not mentioned in Bereshis at all, and very slightly, not in every parsha of Devarim. But Shmos v'Yikra Midbar, every parsha has Moshe's name in it, except this one, because Moshe said to Hashem a little bit too sharp. He said, if you wipe out the Bnei Yisrael because of the Egel, wipe me out too. Because wipe me out of the book that you have written. So that was a little too sharp. Telling Hashem what to do. He says, I'm going to wipe them out and start over from you and build a new nation from you. And the people will have derech eretz like you, and there won't be disrespectful Jews like we have over here, who made an egel 40 days after the Torah was given. Not 40 years or 40 centuries, 40 days. He says, I'm going to wipe them out. So who made the egel? The Erev Rav, the non-born Jews, the converts who were Gerim Gerurim. They didn't go through the real technical Geras. They just accepted in their heart to believe in Hashem. But you have to go through Tevila and Mila and Tevila. They didn't do that. But they didn't do it Chapi Bezin, so they were not real Gerim. So when Hashem took them up the right way, up to the right into the desert, into the east, rather going up the west, the Mediterranean, they said, we're not going the long way, we're going back to Mitzrayim. Most of them went back to Gerim. And those who stayed, they made the Egel, and then Moshe said to the Shevet Levi and everybody else who was Torah true, cut their heads off. So 3,000 of them got their heads cut off. They were the Erev Rav. And the Jews who watched it and didn't protest, they died a terrible death. It took a long time, 30 days. But those who actually were made it, and the perpetrators, they got executed in one day. No one stays on death row 25 years. Same day, dead. How do you know who did it? Moshe made them drink the water of the ground up egel, and they drank it, and their eyes swelled up like an unloyal wife. They were unloyal to Hashem, so therefore they got paid. They had to pay for this with their life, and they got executed. 3,000 of them. Anyhow, so that is the story of the Egel, and so now Pasha Tetzaveh, right? So Moshe's name is not mentioned in it, and that's the week he disappears. Now, why? So we said, erase me from the book you have written. It just so happens the word Sifracha, your book, if you can read it another way, it's Sefer Chaf, the 20th book. This is exactly the 20th parsha from the beginning of the Torah, from Bereshis. That's why it's keep at Tetzaveh. So Moshe disappears in the week of Zayin Adar, which always comes out in the parsha of Tetzaveh. And Tetzaveh happens to be the 20th book, because Moshe said, "Mechenin over Sifracha," in your book that you have written. And also, look how it starts. Ato, hey you. It's very disrespectful. That's like a punishment for Moshe Rabbeinu for being too sharp. Now, Moshe's name is not mentioned in this parsha, but I want to tell you something. If you listen to this program, this shir I give, and my sefer is called Gigantic Little Secrets of the Torah, Niflaos HaTorah. You want to hear a Niflaos HaTorah, a Pele? Moshe's name is in every single pasuk of this week's parsha. The Chazal say his name is not here? I know, Beremez it is. Watch. Moshe is 101. If you take Mem, Shin, Hey, it's 345. But take away the first three letters. Just write the word Bemilui. That means Mem, write the second Mem. Shin, Yud Nun, and Hey, Hey Aleph. If you take away the Mem Shin Hey, add the Miloi, the fill up, is exactly 101. And there's 101 Pesukim in the Sedra. And there's 101 Pesukim in the Sedra, and by the Miloi of Moshe is 101. And at the end it says, at the Sedra, it says that Michael, the defender of the Jewish people, the Malach, is Gematria 101. So Moshe is not in this parsha to defend us. Michael is 101. The Miloi of Moshe is 101, and there's 101 Pesukim in the Sedra. Exactly like the Miloi of Moshe Rabbeinu's name. All right, so you listen to this Niflos HaTorah, you got a lot of wonders and interesting facts. I don't tell stories, and I'm not an entertainer. There's so many facts. Why should you waste your time with games and jokes? So we have Thursday, which is the Tan Siba with the 3 Shekalim. Then we have Friday. Get ready, bring all your stuff to shul for Motzi Shabbos, because you can't do it after Shabbos. You're there already. Yeah, you can drive later and come up to the shul if you can get a seat. Then we have on Shabbos a momentous day. The only day of the year, this Shabbos, doesn't have to come out here for him. The only day of the year, the Shabbos before Purim, the only day of the year, the Shabbos before Purim, where you have a mitzvah, a deraisa, to read from the Torah. Because you see, this Shabbos is Pasha Zochar. And those 3 Pesukim, 47 words, is the only thing you have to read from the Sefer Torah. All the other Kriyas, Shabbos and Yom Tov and weekdays, is a Minhag Yisrael, instituted by Moshe or Ezra. And it's not a deraisa. The only oraisa reading for the Torah is those 3 Pesukim once a year. You have to hear from a Sefer Torah, and you got to hear from a Sefer Torah. Now, if there's no minyan, I guess you can take out a Sefer Torah if you have one to read it. And the seems to be the mitzvah is only barabim in public. Only mitzvah the oraisa, the only mitzvah the oraisa to read from the Sefer Torah is Pasha Zochar, which is 3 Pesukim and 47 words. Every Shabbos and Yom Tov is a Minhag Yisrael. You're going to say Moshe, Halacha Moshe Sinai, brought down from Sinai. You have to hear the Torah every 3 days, so a Jew shouldn't go 3 days without Divrei Torah. Very good. Halacha Moshe Sinai. It's like a din, it's like a mitzvah. Wonderful, except it's not one of the Taryag mitzvahs, and Pasha Zochar is. So we have Thursday, Tanis, one of the Tanes, one of the 6. It's only a minhag. The rest are isurim, bigger. You have to, but it's a minhag. You can be makel for pregnant women. Also, it's on Thursday. You have to give the 3 chatzi shekels, a minhag Yisrael, because Haman wanted to wipe out the Jewish people, and he paid Achashverosh already all the shekels. So we gave 3 shekels because Parsha Kisisa, which we read 2 weeks ago, has the word shekel 3 times. One was when they built the Mishkan. That's what Kisisa is all about. When you count every Jew, you got to give a chatzi shekel for the count, and for that chatzi shekel, half a shekel, you buy the korban tamid. Then the other half a shekel for building the Mishkan is for the adanim, the silver sockets, and the third chatzi shekel for the maintenance of the building. So one is for kavanas, one is for maintenance, and one is for the adanim. So we give 3 chatzi shekels every person over 20. You don't have to give it for girls and not for babies. And then comes Friday, which is preparation for Purim. Shabbos is Pasha Zochar, the only time of the year you have to read from the Torah, mitzvah deraisa. All the others are minhagim. Beautiful, you have to keep those minhagim. If you break a minhag, you end up with Gehenna, because it doesn't, for reformers, the Reformed religion didn't start with Chilul Shabbos like they do, and not having a bris like they used to have, no bris, and eating treifing, marrying goyim. No, it started with just breaking a little minhag, and then eventually, it leads to Gehenna. You marry goyim Michal Shabbos. Then comes Purim. Purim, where you have 4 mitzvahs. To hear the Megillah twice, at night and morning, as 1 mitzvah. Matanos Levyonim, Shlach Manos, and Sudas Purim. You got 4 mitzvahs. And out of the 4, which is the biggest? Well, out of Matanos Levyonim and Sudas Purim and Shlach Manos, the most important is Matanos Levyonim. Be sure that poor person has something. That almana, that yosam, that ger, that poor person, that person, Baal Shuva, doesn't have a family, that ger, or a person who's going to be a ger. Matanos of Yonim is far more important than Shlach Manos. Shlach Manos, you could be Yosef with something baked and something cooked. A little challah, a roll, and a little mini bottle of wine. I know today you got these big Shlach Manos baskets, $150, $200, $75. Some big tzaddikim used to just give a challah and a bottle of wine. Because challah is a suda, and wine, you have to drink on Purim. Not whiskey, wine. This she made for Haman and Achashverosh sudas yayin twice. Wine. Not whiskey, it's wine. So that is Purim. The day when we hide ourselves with masks. God always hides himself in nature. You don't notice anything until you know what's going on. You know what happened in Purim 1953? Average person didn't notice it, but we noticed it. There was a man, Yamach Shemo, Stalin. He had a doctor's plot in 1953. Wanted to wipe out and put in concentration camp all Jewish doctors and dentists, mental doctors, all kind of Jewish doctors, MDs and all kind of doctors. He had concentration camps ready for them to round up all doctors in Russia and the Soviet Union. It's more to Russia. And the Yad Hashem struck him dead on Purim, 1953. 1991, in Persia, and Achashverosh is the king of Persia, which we call today Iran. Saddam Hussein, in Iraq, Saddam Hussein was defeated on Purim, 1991, by George Bush the First. Now we're getting to Purim. And we got that Haman over there in Iran, which is Persia. We'll see what happens to him. If you notice these things, it's very interesting. So let's learn a little bit about Megillas Esther. Now, Megillas Esther was written after the Nes of Purim. 200 years later was the Nes of Chanukah. And the beginning of the second Bayis, that's when Mordechai was. And some of the leftover Nevi'im, they all died in the beginning of the second Bayis. Second Bayis, there were no Nevi'im and no kings. And Nevuah was over, so Mordechai and Esther wrote the Megillah, and she came to the Chachamim, the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, the great men of the Great Assembly. The Anshe Knesset HaGedolah was not the Knesset, where you have Goyim and Rishoyim and Apikorsim and perverts and... There's 120 tzaddikim with Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah. And she came to them, he said, put my Megillah in the Tanakh. They said, I'm sorry, madam, the Tanakh is closed. We have 23 books. He says, no, you got to put it in. We have a Siman Min HaShemayim, Mordechai and I, that we wrote it together. And it was written by Ruach HaKodesh. And it says there that Mordechai and Esther wrote it. Doesn't it say, Vatichtov Esther Hamalka Bas Avichayim Umordechai Yehudi as Haigeres Hazos, this letter. And they said, yeah, so what? How do you have a proof that it should be in Tanakh? Tanakh is sealed. After the first base of English, it's all over. He said, no, you got to make an exception. He said, why? He says, we wrote it by Ruach HaKodesh and it came out to 167 Pesukim. He said, no, so. She said, don't you know in the Torah, when this describes Amalek, and Haman was from Amalek, when it describes in the Pasha Zohar, which we read, which we're going to read this Shabbos, has 47 letters, 47 words, 3 Pesukim, 47. And later on, and earlier in Shemos, in Bishalach, when the Jews got out of Mitzrayim, Amalek attacked them. By Yavo Amalek, that has 120 words. And Pasha Zohar, which you're going to read this Shabbos, has 47. 120 and 47 is 167. They said it was exactly 167 words in the Torah about Amalek, and our Megillah is 167 Pesukim about Amalek. And that's Haman. Put it in. And they put it in. That's the 24th book of Tanakh, and they sealed the Tanakh, and never has there been anything ever added after Megillas Esther. There's 5 Megillas, and the only one you make a bracha on is Megillas Esther, not according to the Vilna Gaon, but we don't follow Das Yochid. The Talmidim of the Grove follow him. However, well, there's 5 Megillas. One you read on Pesach, Shir Shirim, written by Shlomo. One you read on Shavuos, Rus, written by Shmuel Hanavi. One you read on Sukkot, Koheles, written by Shlomo. One you read on Tisha B'Av, written by Yirmiyah Hanavi. It's called Eicha. And one you read on Esther. Now, 5 Megillas. The only one you make a bracha on, and you read out of Klaf, is Megillas Esther. Pretty interesting. That was the one they got into Tanakh. Now, let us ask you some questions about Purim, Megillas Esther, and Tanis Esther. If you go on, you're on Torah anytime. Go right on where you see my picture on top. You can punch, get these questions here. The 28 questions and answers of Purim. Shall we ask the first question to the Torah Anytime audience? Where do we see in this Megillah the date the 10 Nazi war criminals were hung? Similar to Haman's 10 sons who were hung. Really? Is there such a thing in the Megillah? Yes, there is. At the end of the Megillah, where you mention Haman's children's names, and they're listed in a row like that, the way they were hung, all 12 of them, and Haman too. He was killed, he was hung on his own noose on Pesach 11 months earlier. From Nisan to Adar, it's 11 months. So they had hung 12 people, but 11 sons and Haman on top. It says that at the end of the Megillah Esther, 9 plus 3, there's 3 small letters, Tov Shin Zayin. When you mention the names of Haman's 10 sons, there's 3 in those words. 3 letters are very small. Tov Shin Zayin. Well, Tov Shin Zayin is 707. And the Vav of Vayez also, one of his kids, is very long. Vav means the 6th millennium, which is 5,000. And Tov Shin Zayin is 707. 5707. What date was that? 5707. Now it's 5770, so 63 years ago. That was exactly 1946, when the 10 Nazis were hung in Nuremberg. And Haman had 11 children. And his daughter committed suicide. There were 11 Nazis the night before to be hung. One committed suicide, and he always dressed up as a woman, a transvestite. He danced around in women's underwear. That's what he used to do when he had his parties. It's like a woman. So isn't that interesting? And the last one who got killed, the editor of the Nazi newspaper called the Stürmer, his name was Streicher Yamach Shemo. When they put the hood over his head before they hung him in a schoolroom in Nuremberg, where in 1933, 13 years before, Hitler made the Nuremberg laws against the Jews. 13 years later, from 33 to 46, these 11 Nazis, one committed suicide, were hung in the same place. So the 1,000-year Reich only lasted from 33 to 45. 12 years. And they're going to have to control the whole world, right? Make the world Judenrein. Well, we're still here and they're not. And then they divided Germany into 4 parts like a pizza pie. American and Russians and French and English. And they did not have world dominion. So, Tov Shin Zayin with a long Vav is 5,707. 5707 is 1946. And that's when the 10 Nazis were hung. And this guy, when they put a hood over his face, he said, Purim Fest. Purim Festival for Juden, for Jews. He understood Purim. 10 sons of Haman, him 10. He got it. He got the connection perfect. Purim Fest, he said. This is the Purim Festival for Juden, for Jews. Interesting. He understood about the Haman's 11 and 10. And this was 11 the night before, now 10. two Haman, and they were Haman, the Nazis. They were descendants of Haman. Now I want to tell you something that'll blow your mind. That's pretty big. What I just told you is not my idea. The Chol Ber Weissman, he came out with this Chiddush after the war. He said those letters in the Megillah, maybe they mean 5707. The Belzer Rebbe said it. It was printed in all magazines years ago. But I want to tell you something that is the knockout, Shibba knockouts. It says the Yom Hadin for Tzadikim is the first night of Rosh Hashanah. Because they're preparing themselves for a whole month of Elul. By night of Rosh Hashanah, they're decided right away to Chaim. Right away. They are going to be signed for life. The Bainanim, the average people, they have 10 days. That's the Yom Hadin for them is Yom Kippur. The Rishayim, their Yom Hadin is Hoshana Rabbah, about a week after Yom Kippur, in the middle of Sukkot, Hoshana Rabbah. Abaisai, the 10 Nazis were hung on Hoshana Rabbah, 1946. Is that not Yad Hashem? The Yom Hadin for Rishayim is Hoshana Rabbah. That was the day they were hung. It was not Purim, it was Hoshana Rabbah. But the Purim idea was 100%, he was 100% right. That's my first question in the Torah Anytime. P.S. Stalin died on Purim 1953. Saddam Hussein was defeated by George Bush, the first George Bush in 1991, in the first war with Iraq. Number 2 of number B. The Khmelnytsky massacres of 1648, where 100,000 Polish Jews were killed in 2 years. Where do we see that in the Megillah? Well, in the beginning of and the end of the Megillah, you have 2 big letters that are jumbo size. One is a Tuf and one is a Ches. Just open the Megillah, you'll see it. Right in the beginning, you have Chur, Karpas and Chedes. That's a big Ches. And the Tuf is at the end. Well, Tuf Ches is 408. In the year 5408, which is the hour year of the solar year, 1648, Common Era, CE, 100,000 Jews were killed by Khmelnytsky massacres. It's in the Megillah. Chav Ches, 408. In 5408, not 1648. That was Khmelnytsky massacres. And number 3, the date and the start of the Second World War. The date of the start of the Second World War, where do you see that? That's not in this Megillah, it's in another Megillah, in Eicha. You go to the last chapter, Oy Mehoyolanu it's called. You add up the gematrias of the words, there's about 6 words that are written, each one missing a letter. If you add up the words missing those letters, you come out to 698. And it's the 5th chapter of Eicha. 5698, 5698 is exactly 1939. And Taf Reish Tzadiches means 5698. Taf Reish is 6, Tzadiches 98. And the 5 is the 5th chapter of Eichel. Oy mehoyalana, this never happened before. And Taf Reish Tzadiches, if you read the word, is tirtzach, a slaughter, or tehei retzach, there'll be a slaughter. That was the Holocaust. Which means years of murder. Tehei retzach, tirtzach. Remember Hashem, what has befallen us. Zachar, that's how the 5th chapter starts. Zachar Hashem mahoyalanu. Number 2, what is Purim Katan? And what is Shushan Purim Katan? And what is Shushan Purim? And what is Pesach Sheni? And what is Purim Meshuleshes? 2. The first Purim in a year where there's 2 Adars, not like this year's. When there's 2 Adars, the first Purim is called Purim Katan, because next month will be the real Purim. On Purim Katan, you don't say Tachnun, and you don't say a Hesped, different things. Second, what is Shushan Purim Katan? The day after Purim Katan is Shushan Purim Katan. Because the day after Purim is Shushan Purim. Shushan Purim, what is that? The day after regular Purim. Because in Purim they had 2 days to slaughter all the Bnei Haman. And outside of Shushan, they had only 1 day. The 13th and the 14th was the Yontif. Like we make Yontif on the 14th. They had 13th and 14th. They make Purim on the 15th. In Eretz and Shushan and in Eretz and in Yerushalayim. By the way, Shushan, Susa, is Hamadan for all you Pharisees. Mordechai and Esther are buried in Hamadan. That's Shushan or Susa. What about Pesach Sheni? That's the 14th day of Peyar, 14th day of Iyar, 1 month after Pesach. Pesach, where you eat a little piece of matzah. That's the day that if a person couldn't bring the korban Pesach on 15th day of Nisan, because you use Tameh, you can do it next month. So why don't you have a Sukkah Sheni, and a Rosh Hashanah Sheni, and a Shavuot Sheni, and a Chanukah Sheni, and a Yom Kippur Sheni? Why only Sukkah, Pesach Sheni? Why? Because if you missed Yom Kippur, you couldn't fast, you were sick, so you're putter. If you missed Shavuos, couldn't stay up and learn, you couldn't celebrate Yom Kippur, so you're putter. If you couldn't light the Chanukah lights, so you're putter. You're onus Rachmana Patre. You didn't have it, you were not there, you were traveling, you didn't, you were different circumstances, you're putter. And Rosh Hashanah you couldn't blow the shofar, so you're putter. And Yom Kippur you couldn't fast, you're putter, you're sick. And then Shavuot Pesach and the Sukkahs, you couldn't sit in the Sukkah, some reason, sick in the hospital, you're putter. But Rabbi say, if you don't bring a korban Pesach, you're not just putter, you're chayiv kores. They give you another chance a month later. You don't have to make up sukkahs. You're putter if you didn't have a sukkah. You couldn't fast on Yom Kippur. But here, you're just not putter, you're kores. So, we give you another chance a month later. What is Purim Meshuleshes? That happened last year, I think. It happens every 4 or 5 years. Purim Meshuleshes is only in Yerushalayim. It's a 3-day Purim Meshuleshes. You read the Megillah and Matanis Levyonim, Friday, Adar 4. On Shabbos, Adar 15th, which is their normal Purim for Yerushalayim, it's Shabbos. You say Al Hanisim and Kriyas Pashas Amalek. And on Sunday, you eat the Suda and send Shlachmonos. We do all of it on 1 day, Friday. They do it on Friday, Shabbos, Sunday. That's called Purim Meshuleshes. Triple Purim. Yes, then you shall me about it. They know all about it. One more question, and then we're going to close. And if you want the rest of these things, go online and print it down. 3. What are the 9 major Yom Tovim? And the 12 minor Yom Tovim? 3. Major. Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Chanukah, Purim, Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is the Raisa. You know that Rosh Chodesh is more important than Purim and Chanukah? Because it's the Raisa. And the minor is Tu B'Shvat, Tu B'Av, Purim Katan, Pesach Sheni, Lag BaOmer, Isru Chag, Erev Pesach, Shabbos Chazon, Shabbos Hagodol, Shabbos Shuvo, Shabbos Shiro, and Shabbos Nachamu. Okay, Rabbi said we are finished, and we will hope you have a wonderful Purim. And if you want to read the other 28, 27, 26 questions, go to TorahAnytime.com. And remember, learn the Megillah Esther now, not the last minute. Motzi Shabbos when they read it right now. Have a good Feilach Purim.